and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Okay, look, we got to talk about Trump again. So I don't know what's happening here with our quote-unquote democracy, but I say this as someone who will not vote Democrat and I won't vote Republican, but Donald Trump's removal from the Colorado ballot concerns me. This is bad for democracy. And I've seen some people comment recently on a clip video that I made on yesterday's show. Oh, are you against the 14th Amendment? First of all, Trump did not lead an insurrection. Okay? He's not been found guilty of anything like that. Second of all, Donald Trump is not a Confederate. All right? Now, a Trump supporter can be anyone. Guess what? Politics is, okay, if I like this person's policies and issues and where they stand on certain things, fine, I'll vote for them, right? So Donald Trump has, yes, black voters, Latino voters, Asian voters, women voters, and yes, white people too. I know. Wow. Now, I do hope that one day all Republican voters wake up to the fact that both parties are screwing us over. But hey, that's neither here nor there. But it is their sovereign right, as it is your sovereign right and choice, to vote how you feel in November of 2024. I am not going to sit here on this show and tell you how to vote. But I am concerned about the dangerous precedent that's being set here with Trump being kicked off the Colorado ballot because people's feelings in January 6th. So hold on, let's give it up for Joe 30330 himself. I know, folks, just brace yourself. It's going to get stupid. It's going to get really stupid. He can't even come up with a coherent sentence. And if it's an act, wow, it's a really good act. Oh, wait a minute. The video wasn't playing and everything else. Let's start that over again. Here's the video.
Mr. President, your reaction to the Colorado ruling on Trump and the ballot?
I'm not going to comment on a court case. That's up to the court. That's all I have to say.
He can't even come up with a coherent sentence. He can't even really say anything that's on point. This is a guy, if he's putting on an act, it's a hell of an act. But I've seen my fair share of senior citizens, deal with memory loss, Alzheimer's, dementia, and he exhibits all the signs. He's like Junior Soprano. Next thing you know, he'll be watching Curb Your Enthusiasm and thinking that that's him on the TV. If anyone remembers that episode of Sopranos where Junior thought it was him and Bobby on TV, and when it was really just Curb Your Enthusiasm, I mean, God, that was sometimes Sopranos. There was a dark show, but man, did it have its comedic moments. That was great.
Is he an insurrectionist? Is Trump an insurrectionist, sir?
Well, I think it's certainly self-evident.
So you have the president of the United States saying that Trump is an insurrectionist, even though he hasn't been proven of that. So that's like, look, I don't want to use these words, but like, what is he? Slandering him, smearing him in a way, libel, defamation. I mean, obviously all those words have different meanings, but you're accusing somebody of something they did not do.
You saw it all. Now, whether the 14th Amendment applies, I'll let the court make that decision. But he certainly supported an insurrection. And no question about it. None. Zero. And he seems to be doubling down on about everything.
Mr. President,
So let's go ahead and pull this up here. So I have two people, Tucker Carlson and Glenn Greenwald, weighing in with their perspective and their point of view, because I think it's important that we hear what they're saying. So let's go ahead and pull up first Tucker Carlson.
This was pretty puzzling to watch. Whatever else January 6th was, and in some ways we still don't know exactly what it was not a Trump-led insurrection. The crowd had no guns. They had no plan to overthrow the government. Nothing like that has ever emerged. And above all, Trump was not leading it. He was miles away at the White House at the time, where he issued a public statement calling for calm and nonviolence. So why were the people on television telling us that Trump led an insurrection? This was, of course, a lie, but it was also a very obvious lie. So clearly we were watching the rollout of a talking point, words crafted for a specific purpose. But what was the purpose? We got an answer to that question yesterday when the Colorado Supreme Court ruled that because he led an insurrection, Donald Trump's name cannot appear on the state's ballot next fall. The 4 liberal judges who concluded this cited as their justification Article 3 of the 14th Amendment, which was written in 1868 to keep former Confederate officials from holding office.
Now, Trump supporters and Donald Trump, last I checked, they were born way, way after the Confederacy. The Confederacy doesn't exist anymore, all right? It's gone. 6 feet under. It's dead. It's gone. Farewell. Bye-bye. Whatever. Okay? That ain't ever coming back. So, judges, Colorado judges, what were you thinking? And plus, Trump has been found guilty of insurrection. So, what precisely are you trying to do here? Because you're undermining a democracy. And by the way, this isn't the first time a candidate has ever been kicked off a ballot. We here at Hard Lens Media have interviewed Greens, libertarians, socialists, independents who have been kicked off the ballot. And that was Democrats and Republicans working together. Wow, bipartisanship. Isn't that great? This isn't the first time it's happened. I mean, maybe to such a major candidate like Trump, but this is where we're at.
That was the sum total of their reasoning. Despite the fact Donald Trump has never been convicted by any court of insurrection, and although the 14th Amendment specifically does not apply to the presidency, Donald Trump cannot run for president because he's an insurrectionist. This seemed like lunacy because it was lunacy. 3,000 miles away in El Salvador, there was no question about what was happening. The United States has lost its ability to lecture any other country about, quote, democracy, wrote Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele. And yet in this country, no one on the left dared say that. Instead, Donald Trump's enemies celebrated.
No, hold on, Tucker. Hold on. I like to consider myself to be a homeless leftist, a dirtbag leftist. I'm against it. I know Jimmy Dore spoke out against it. A lot of us progressives have spoke out against it. That doesn't mean we support Trump, but we've been through this rodeo ride before, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of libertarians and Greens and socialists and independents that'll tell you the same thing too. So I think you're talking about like the neoliberals, Tucker, like the latte drinking liberals, the vote blue no matter who, Hillary Clinton people. Those are the people that are celebrating. They don't speak for me. They don't represent me, and they don't represent my audience either. So look, hey, I know we're not a fan of Trump. I know some of us are. Maybe some people are probably fans of Trump, whatever. But look, what's happening to him, it's not right. It's not right. It's very bad for democracy. And yeah, Tucker is right. Because how can we lecture anyone about democracy when we're not implementing it ourselves?
The Atlantic magazine expressed gratitude that unelected judges had, quote, rescued the country from the desires of voters, because actually that's democracy. And then there was Jenna Greenwald. That's the Colorado Secretary of State. You may not have seen her before, but you will instantly recognize the category she represents. Unhappy 39-year-old liberal women with...
Okay, I shouldn't laugh at that, but look, I've ran into my fair share of activists, especially starting Hard Lens Media. You know, even some liberals. Oh boy, you know, it's just I've had more pleasant interactions with Trump people than I've had with liberals. Okay, and it's just it sometimes shocks me because like looking back now, because I was a little bit concerned about how 2016 everything was going to play out, but noticing my conversations, and no, I didn't change any conservative or Trump supporters' mind, but I was able to have at least a proper discourse with people, right? Liberals, oh my God. Anyways, I could be here for days talking about those interactions. Jesus.
Ivy League degrees and a deep streak of authoritarian impulses. Here's Griswold on MSNBC last night explaining that a conventional legal process is no longer necessary for the left to get its way. No more trials or evidence or jury verdicts. An accusation made on television is now enough to remove a frontrunner from the presidential race. If Nancy Pelosi and Joe Scarborough call you bad, Americans are not allowed to vote for you. Watch.
Look, I believe he incited the insurrection. There were big questions around Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, and the Colorado Supreme Court has weighed in a very loud way, making themselves clear.
Here's the problem with liberals. Every time they rip off a day off their calendar, they still see January 6th. It's like forever with them. January 6th, a day that will never go away. Like, look, man, I've had bad days too. I've had some real bad days this year. But I just got to move the F on. Okay? That's what an adult does. That's what an emotionally mature person does. We move the F on.
Frankly, we've never had a president try to steal the presidency and engage in insurrection ever before. So Trump's actions are unprecedented. The Colorado Supreme Court confirmed that the district court got it right, that he did engage in insurrection. I think Section 3 of the 14th Amendment has to apply to the presidency, because if not, it's a get out of jail free card. And in a country of laws where no man is above another, we can't have...
Lady, are you not paying attention? We live in a two-tiered justice system, okay, where the rich have everything and the poor got nothing. All right? You know, we have a really messed up political system here. So, yes, there are people above others, okay? We live in an oligarchy. I like it how authoritative she is. Like, yes, we can't have Trump. Think Trump's anything new? Listen, here's something that's going to keep you up at night. Did you know there's probably far more vile, evil people in power than Donald Trump? I mean, Donald Trump can be easy to spot, but there are professional politicians who've been in power for 20, 30 plus years who are probably far more evil and far more corrupt than Donald Trump ever could be. That'll keep you up at night. Like, oh, geez, what's really out there? Sometimes the greatest evil can hide in the light.
Have one office be able to do whatever they want when it comes to rebellion, and then be able to be seated in office again.
The rebel scum will be destroyed.
None of this seems very American. All of it looks like the actual end of democracy.
So I also want to pull up here with Glenn Greenwald to get another perspective, the left perspective. Let's hear it from him.
The establishment effort to avoid facing Donald Trump before the electorate at the ballot box saw one of its gravest and most unprecedented escalations yet. Just as Trump rises to his highest point yet in polling for 2024, and as Biden sinks to his worst level of disapproval yet, a state court in Colorado, full of Democratic Party appointed judges, just decided yesterday by a 4-3 ruling that Trump is ineligible to appear on the Colorado Republican presidential primary ballot because, in the view of these 4 judges, he is guilty of being an insurrectionist and thus ineligible to run for the presidency under the 14th Amendment. There are so many grave and glaring flaws in the legal reasoning of this decision, which we will show you, but one need not have a law degree to detect its most significant error. Donald Trump, despite being indicted in 4 separate jurisdictions, has never once been charged with, let alone convicted of, the crime of insurrection. Both DOJ Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, as well as the Democratic Party prosecutor in Atlanta, charged Trump with multiple felonies relating to his conduct regarding the 2020 election. And yet both of them, despite being able to do so, opted not to charge Trump.
Not to charge Trump. One more time. Huge shout out to Glenn Greenwald. Please follow him on social media.
Democratic Party prosecutor in Atlanta charged Trump with multiple felonies relating to his conduct regarding the 2020 election. And yet both of them, despite being able to do so, opted not to charge Trump with engaging in an insurrection or even inciting an insurrection. But no matter, these 4 state court judges, without any of the due process required for judging someone guilty of a crime, have decreed that he is nonetheless guilty of that crime, one with which he has never even been charged, and thus never had the opportunity to claim all of the constitutional safeguards guaranteed to someone when charged with a crime. As this court itself recognized, this ruling will almost certainly now be heard by the U.S. Supreme Court. That's why they stayed the order until January 4th to give the court time to say whether it will rule on it or not. And this is especially so since the same liberal advocacy groups that spearheaded this case in Colorado have done the same in at least 14 other states, where they're trying to block the presidential frontrunner, meaning the person who more Americans say they want to be president next year than anyone else, from even appearing on the ballot. Yet again, what we have here are the very same people in politics and media who endlessly glorify themselves as the sole guardians of American democracy.
I'll pause here for a second. For far too long, we've seen people in positions of power anoint themselves as the champions of our republic, to be the holders of decency and morality. Always beware of those people. Seriously, if they act like the true gatekeeper and say like, oh, well, this is how the world has to be, or we have to have more civility, and the people like Trump, or people voting third party, or people standing up against the system, how dare they? Well, there's a whole process to play out. You must wait and be obedient and not go werewolf. Always beware of those people, because they're the biggest hypocrites out there. Always beware of the individual who acts holier than thou, because they're not. Because they themselves probably have a long, sad history of, oh, that's right, being corrupt, being hypocritical, abusing their power. It's not the first time we've seen individuals like that exist, nor will it be the last. We've seen people like this before. And yet somehow, oh no, Trump is the end-all, be-all. Anyone that's been severely anti-Trump or has Trump derangement syndrome, secretly, they all wish they were like him.
Relying on classically anti-democratic weapons to try to cling to political power. Beyond this ruling, Trump has been charged with felony counts in 4 other cases. The first one brought by a liberal prosecutor in Manhattan. The other state case brought by the Democratic Party machine prosecutor in Atlanta. And then the 2 federal cases brought by a special prosecutor under the auspices of the Biden Justice Department. Regardless of one's views on January 6th and Trump's conduct with respect to it, it is beyond dispute now that the primary tactic of the Democratic Party and their media allies for winning in 2024 is not to convince voters to vote for them, but instead to imprison their chief political opponent and to prevent American citizens forcibly from voting for him. And whatever else this is, saving democracy most definitely has nothing to do with it. Quite the contrary. On top of the ongoing attempts to impose increasing levels of constraints on the expression of political speech, it is genuinely hard to imagine a more glaring and more dangerous full frontal assault on democratic values than what American liberals and the Democratic Party is doing to prevent Trump from running or even remaining free.
I also want to pull this up here as well, because breaking! The great state of California moves to explore every legal option to get Trump off the 2024 ballot by December 28th. And so the lieutenant governor specifically cited the Colorado Supreme Court's Tuesday decision ruling that Trump is ineligible to be on the ballot. As Glenn Greenwald has stated, as Tucker Carlson has stated, as many other people have stated across the political spectrum, Trump hasn't been found guilty of what happened on January 6th. He is not a Confederate. He's not, General Lee reborn. So there. But this is setting a dangerous precedent. And by the way, California, don't do this. Don't do this. And speaking of which, look, if you're a Trump supporter, there are people on the left that disagree with what's happening with Trump, because we have dealt with it ourselves when progressives or independents are trying to run. So this is bad. This is bad all across the board, because gee, liberals, what kind of Pandora's box are you opening up here? Because this could one day be used against you and maybe a candidate that you like. Case in point, let's talk about it. In a letter sent on Wednesday, the California Lieutenant Governor and, of course, the California Secretary of State are now looking at every legal option to do so. So they're citing the Colorado Supreme Court. Everyone seems to be happy. The latte-drinking liberals seem to be happy. The Lieutenant Governor noted that time is of the essence as your announcement of the certified list of candidates for the March 5th, 2024 primary election is coming up next week. I am prompted by the Colorado Supreme Court's ruling that former President Trump is ineligible to appear on the state's ballot as a presidential candidate due to his role in inciting an insurrection in the U.S. Capitol on January 6th of 2021. This decision is about honoring the rule of law in our country and protecting the fundamental pillars of our democracy. Okay, so here's the thing. Case in point. Despite the case to remove Trump from the state ballot under the 14th Amendment, Trump has not been charged with insurrection. I'm sorry. I didn't read that properly. Trump has not been charged with insurrection. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Once again, I have failed English. Trump has not been charged with insurrection. I had to repeat that 3 times because, God damn it, folks, the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to Trump. It just doesn't. Liberals, listen. You're like Wile E. Coyote going after the Roadrunner. Yeah, that's right. Trump is a Roadrunner. Beep, beep. Every time you go after him, every time you use that Acme technology stuff, you end up blowing your face off. You end up getting that anvil on the head. You end up falling down the Grand Canyon. That's the truth of it. I mean, the mugshot, the indictments, the legal issues, the impeachment, all that stuff. It's water off a duck's back. Trump, in every courtroom in the United States, probably has his own office. That's how many times he's been to the courtroom. He probably knows every single court person out there, right? Anyone that's part of a courtroom is like, "Hey, Bob, how you doing?" That's a terrible Trump impression, but you know what I'm saying. And of course, going on to say California must stand on the right side of history. No, California, don't do this. California is obligated to determine if Trump is ineligible for the California ballot for the same reasons described in Anderson. The Colorado decision can be the basis for a similar decision here in our state. The Constitution is clear. You must be 40 years old and not be an insurrectionist. Going back up here to the first sentence right here, above the last sentence here, Trump has not been charged with insurrection. Colorado is the first state to rule that Trump should not be on the ballot, with both Minnesota and Michigan courts dismissing similar lawsuits contesting Trump's eligibility to be on the lawsuit. Trump's team is expected to appeal the ruling, as they should. Now, this is a screenshot from Trump's social media, Truth Social. The last time the Democrats took someone off the ballot was in 1860. He's going to compare himself to Abe Lincoln. Come on, Trump. I know you got an ego, but take it easy. They would not allow a man named Abraham Lincoln to be so much as mentioned in slave states. Okay, so there you go. Yep. All right, Trump going off. I'll play this final video here.
The core problem here is the denial of due process. To deprive somebody of the right to hold public office requires due process. It requires an adjudication of 2 core issues. One, was there an insurrection? Did the public disturbance rise to the level of an insurrection? And second, what was the role of the individual in there? Was it engagement? Did they do something to break their oath of office? Those are complicated facts, and this was denied due process. It was a 5-day hearing. There was no jury. It was before the judge. They were not able to subpoena witnesses and compel the attendance of witnesses. They relied on, the hearings, the January 6th committee hearings, which is mostly hearsay. There was no right to cross-examine during those hearings and so forth. So as the dissent said, and by the way, the 3 Democratic justices who dissented, their opinions, I think, are masterful. And as they pointed out, they said, the process here was a procedural Frankenstein.
All right. Now, I played that without interrupting because I think it's important that we hear that. So there's a very good chance that Trump's legal team, and at this point, Jesus Christ, Trump has probably so many legal issues. He should, I don't know. Hey, Trump, when you're done being president, maybe becomes a Supreme Court justice. I don't know. Right. This is a danger to democracy, and this is a latte drinking liberals' attempt to try and stop Trump from running, because he's already going to win the Republican primary. Now, here is a problem, right? Democrats, you know what this tells me? Every time you do the mugshots or get excited with the indictments or any other legal issues surrounding Trump, and now this thing removing him off the ballot and maybe off California, it tells me that you don't have a real serious plan to face off against Trump, Democrats. So 2024, all what you got is fear, fear, and fear. And look, I am sick and tired of fear and worry and all this other stuff. I mean, at this point, I am stressed out as it is. I'm pretty sure all of you are stressed out as it is. This is what the Democrats have: fear and bullying. If you don't support us, Trump's going to win. And you're going to make my life better? What are you going to do? What are you going to do this time around? You told me you were going to make things better after 2024. I didn't see any of that. Inflation's running amok. We got environmental and man-made disasters. Hey, Biden, have you visited East Palestine, Ohio yet? No, he has not. He has not done that. What about the people of Lahaina? Remember them? That one-time $700 payment? No. It's understandable why Americans are angry and disapproving of Biden. So, what is the Democrats' establishment's only chance to do? Oh, hey, undermine a thing called democracy. Isn't that great? That's all what they got. They have no plan. They have no plan.